Hey, I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. Hanging out today with Rachel Matthews. She's here, got a ton of stuff going on. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We were just talking about being 26-year-olds.
Yes.
And my 26 looks a little different than your 26, given the fact that you navigate this crazy world. So what's it been like for you so far?
It's been surreal. It's been overwhelming, but in all the best way possible. Yeah, I mean, just even looking at this picture, I'm shocked I look that calm in this photo because inside I'm like truly panicking, and it was a lot coming out of the car and pulling up and seeing all these fans who were saying they've been waiting for like 24 hours on that carpet, and to be a part of it. So yeah, I'm still like, whoa, that's me.
You kept it together pretty well.
Thank you. I'm actually so shocked that I look like this. If you get close enough, I'm sure you can see sheer panic in my eyes.
So for somebody like you, you've been doing it since you were a young girl, and now to be able to do it in a big time movie like this, like what is the wildest part of this whole journey to you?
Oh my gosh, the wildest part. Well, I mean, there's so many different factors, but I love that when the first Frozen came out, I was a sophomore at NYU in musical theater. So Idina Menzel, Josh Gad, Jonathan Groff. I mean, like all the big time people, especially for me looking up to them and pursuing what I was pursuing. And when the first one came out, I dragged my friends to the theater 4 different times. 4 times? 4 times. They were a little concerned, I think, for me, but I was like so obsessed with it. And I even had like a stuffed Olaf. And
wow, you went all the way in.
Oh, I'm like a huge fangirl. So I think for me, like more than, you know, as an actor and having this be like such a huge step in my career, but just like the Disney fangirl in me is just absolutely geeking out.
Well, we grew up with all those Disney Channel movies, so to get to this point, it was almost like a spiritual journey for you to finish things off here.
It was. It felt like full circle, and I even, like, Jonathan Groff would come and teach a master class at NYU, and everyone would just be panicking, and I'm just like, wow, now we're in a movie together, and that's still like I don't think that will ever feel like normal to say.
No, because it's not that far removed from when you were in that class.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's all so new for me, and I just feel really, really grateful to be a part of this.
So, what was the most interesting part of doing this movie?
The process.
Okay.
I'd never done voiceover before. I'd never even done a voiceover audition.
So how did you get the part then? How did you jump into it?
It's actually such a crazy story. My manager's assistant happened to be calling for another client at Disney, seeing if they were still auditioning. I think it was like Wreck-It Ralph or something. Okay. And she ended up having Jamie Roberts on the phone, the head of casting. And they were closed for that project. And so my manager's assistant was like, well, do you have anything else that's going on? And she's like, Frozen 2, do you have a Honeymarin? And kind of broke down you know, the character traits and what they were looking for. And thank God, but she thought of me and one other person from the entire company.
Wow.
And Jamie ended up seeing me. So it was like kind of a fluke.
Totally serendipitous that it happened that way.
So serendipitous. And yeah, I had no idea what to expect. It was a monologue and a song, and went in, and she told me in the room that I'd be coming back for a producer session, which was already, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest thing ever. And for the producer session, it was about a month and a half later with Chris Buck and Peter DeVelco and like a bunch of the big people. And I still was like, there's no way I'm getting this. So for me, I was just like, this is an insane experience and a dream come true. I'm just enjoying the journey, being like, yeah, like this will never happen, but like I get to at least be a part of this. And about 2 months later, I found out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
So you got that going on. You have Batwoman. You did an episode there.
Yes.
We had Rachel Scarsden here
a
couple weeks ago.
She's lovely.
Really great. And that's just like a really cool show too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we've seen this whole universe for superheroes, but now it's like we're putting it in a totally different light.
Such a different spin.
So what was the most fascinating part of that experience for you? You playing a little bit of a villain, and again, you get to play an empowering woman, which is an awesome thing. So walk me through that.
Well, it was all so crazy because I went in on a Monday morning, and this is what I love the most about my job, is that things switch on a dime. One day you're in LA and the next morning you're in Canada. Right. And that's exactly what happened. I went in the morning and kind of got pinned, and then was told that night that you're leaving at 4 a.m. for Vancouver. And immediately, like, okay, I was like, great. I was so pumped. And I found out that I booked the role of Magpie. I went in not knowing like what role it was, because they're very secretive about it. And so I started doing more of my research, and you know, she's incredible, and I love her because she's kind of like that Robin Hood type character.
Sure.
Like you can kind of back her up on her motives of why she's stealing from the wealthy and kind of like wanting to teach them a lesson or two. But it was so much fun. I got to do a lot of my own stunts and my fight choreography, and I've never been given that opportunity before. And so that was probably my favorite part, just being like tied up. We were shooting in a museum downtown Vancouver, having like my Mission Impossible moment, like just like you know, scaling down from the ceiling, and I was just like, I could do this every day. This is so much fun.
Yeah, Rachel talked about like using a knife for the first time. Like it's really cool that you guys got to do your own stunts because like you're not doing that in other parts.
No,
it's not happening.
Exactly. It was so much fun. Right when the suit was insane. It took like 4 people to get me in, 4 people to get me out. Long claws. Going to the bathroom was absolutely impossible.
It just wasn't happening.
It just like, wasn't a thing.
Like, Rachel, you gotta hold it.
Yeah, just hold it. I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, no, guys, it's fine.
Like, cool.
Yeah, cool, whatever you say. But yeah, it was such a fun experience. So different from anything else.
That's awesome. So the industry is pretty wild because like you can have a couple things hit in a row. You can have nothing hit for a long time. Like, if I were to tell you a couple years ago that this is what things would look like, what is most surprising so far about everything?
Oh man, so many things, but I think probably for me, just the amount of different opportunities I've been given, like from the characters to the mediums, from voiceover. I'm also now narrating a couple audiobooks for Disney.
Oh, cool, nice.
Television, film. So being able to look over the last few months and see all the different types of projects I've been able to do. I never in a million years would have thought that would have all happened so quickly like that. And when I got into acting, I was always so hopeful that I could do everything across the board. I never wanted to be pigeonholed in a type or like a certain type of project. Like I really wanted to do everything from theater to voiceover to television and everything in between. So I think that's probably the most exciting part, is kind of seeing that all come to fruition.
Yeah, it's great. And then you got Looking for Alaska as well, which is another interesting one. Like people love the books and everything with John Green.
It was one of my favorite books.
What has been the coolest part of that experience?
I think probably, one, just shooting it, the process. I think stepping onto that set, I knew immediately that this was something special. And I had read that book years ago, and it got me through a lot of tough times. I think John Green does such a beautiful job portraying teenage first times in a very honest and real way. And even though it takes place in 2005, all those things are still very much the same
applicable.
Now. Very applicable, and people can still relate to it. So I think being a part of a project that has such a beautiful message to so many people is something that's very important to me, and also just the feedback that we've all been getting and how much it means to everyone.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's also just relatable. You can be a teenager going through this stuff now. You can be somebody in your 20s having gone through it not that long ago, and it's like, we need to talk about these things.
Exactly.
You know, it helps a lot with the process.
Exactly, and I also think it's a great conversation starter.
Totally.
The book was a conversation starter, and now having it be like very much a beloved television show, people are still talking about it, and I think it's allowing people a platform to talk about, you know, depression or, you know, mental illness or
anxiety,
racism, anxiety, or heartbreak. And that's what should be happening. That's why, you know, that's what makes me want to be an actor, is being a part of those projects that are starting conversations.
Right, it's something more than just what's on the page and just what's on TV.
Exactly.
And like our generation, we've talked about this since we've been younger, but the older generation hasn't done that.
Exactly.
So there really is that disconnect. So when people are seeing these shows, they think it's groundbreaking. But at the same time, like, these are conversations that have been going on since middle school and the high school and college and beyond.
Totally, and I think, you know, I've heard a lot from parents too, where a lot of the parents are asking their kids, like, when they've watched it, is this something you went through? Because I think so often, so much of that has been stigmatized for so long that a lot of kids never felt like it was okay to share this with their parents, especially. And I think a lot of parents are watching it being like, I wonder if my kid was going through similar things. And that's probably opening up conversations for parents and kids to be now you know, having that and feeling like it's more comfortable.
Even just the identification of depression or
Yeah.
anxiety, because some kids just didn't know what to call it.
No.
They just thought it was their own situation.
Yeah.
Nobody else was dealing with
Exactly. No one wants to talk about it because they're like, oh, I'm different.
Right, I'm different.
And they're going to
Exactly.
ostracize themselves. When we can all just talk about it, we all just realize everyone's going through something. And that's why I think the show and the book and all of it does such a beautiful job of that. And it's so real. And the way that they did it makes me so happy with the outcome. The outcome is beautiful. So I'm really proud of that entire cast.
That's great. So when you look around the industry, who are other people that inspire you or you like what they're doing? Because like you're somebody who has range that wants to do a bunch of different things.
Oh my gosh.
Who are people that you're like, oh, that's some cool stuff going on with that person there?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many like crushes on, like I just like love.
Acting crushes?
Acting crushes, like right now one of them, oh gosh. Florence Pugh, I think, like especially more in my age range.
Sure.
She's someone I think is just such a rock star and absolutely killing it. And what I admire about her, I think she's so unapologetically herself, and she is kind of hitting everything from Midsommar to like Little Women.
Yeah.
And I adore her. And oh gosh, I mean, there are so many. Who else?
Well, that's a good one to start with. Somebody that's in your contemporary world that you can relate to and just be like, hey, if that person's doing it, why can't I do the same thing?
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what are some other things you'd like to do? You mentioned a couple of things. Like, you're just getting going. Like,
right,
you got
I know.
So much to
I'm
look
like,
forward
oh
to.
gosh. I would love to do a play.
Okay. You haven't done one yet, like in a professional sense.
No, I haven't.
Because that's kind of been the consistent theme, like early on in your life, right?
Right, theater's the reason why I got into it. So because once I graduated NYU, I immediately went to LA.
Gotcha.
I didn't stay in New York. I went straight for the film and television route with the hopes that I could build up my resume and then go do a show. So I feel like I'm starting to, like, you know, get that ball rolling a little bit and build up the resume and run a little bit and be like, okay, guys, if there's a cool show or a cool, you know, Broadway, off-Broadway. Also, there's a part of me that's like, I'm so half and half with New York and LA.
Right.
So finding a way to get me back to New York for work would be ideal. I gotta make it happen.
Because a lot of stuff is being shot here now, too.
Yeah.
It's not just all LA.
Exactly.
So let's make that happen.
Let's make it happen, guys. We're putting it out there right now. And I also really want to get into producing. So I'm actually starting to get more into that back home right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Rachel, really nice to meet you.
So nice meeting you.
Thanks so much for coming in. Check
Thank
her
you
out,
for
all her
having
great
me.
stuff. Frozen 2, when's Frozen 2 coming out?
November 22nd.
There you go.
Yes.
For Rachel, I'm DJ. See you next time.
Bye.
Here on The Sit Down.